The point is that the story is yet to play out. Mr. Adani may have shown the case to some lawyers. They may have a particular opinion about it, that there really is no case to answer. That irrespective of how eminent the counsel, that has no determinative value in law. It may persuade people. An opinion of a counsel may say that, this is something which this group may get by in due course of time. But whether it would be actionable economic intelligence, I would certainly hold my horses. I would be very surprised if SEBI investigated. And if SEBI investigated it, this would be the least of the sins that the Adani Group can be charged with. An investor or a shareholder of the Adani Group wants to place on their opinions is for that individual investor to decide. I would be among those who would advise caution at the very least. Adani Corporation's capacity to expand overseas has been severely compromised. But more than brand Adani, I am worried about brand India. This kind of conflating Adani is India and what is good for Adani is good for India is not doing India's brand any good.
Hello and a warm welcome to HW News Network, your one-stop show, truth be told, for some engaging and thought-provoking conversations. Now, today there was a totally new spin given to Adani's US indictment. Now, what happened early morning? You had lawyers like Mukul, Rohatgi and Mahesh Jethmalani who defended Gautam Adani, Sagar Adani over US bribery charges. Now, what has Mahesh Jethmalani said? He said that the timing of this whole indictment report is very suspicious and there is sketchy evidence. It's a hatchet job. So these are the things which basically he has said. And he's also said that there is no actual evidence of the bribery they are speaking about. Similarly, Mukul Rohatgi also has defended Gautam Adani, saying that there were 5 charges on which this indictment report came out, and count 1 and count 5 are more important than others. But in both these cases, there is count 1 and count 5. The names of the Adanis is not there. That is Gautam Adani and Sagar Adani, and also one of his executives, Vineet Jain. So those names don't appear. And count 1, he spoke about that it charges Gautam Adani of conspiracy and to violate the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. Now, over this development, after Mahesh Jethmalani and Mukul Rohatgi held the press conference, the opposition was all guns blazing. And Jairam Ramesh said that Modani ecosystem is trying to dilute the seriousness of the bribery charges. Whereas if you look at Mahua Moitra, she has targeted Gautam Adani, saying that the top lawyers have been sent to hike up the stock prices and also dupe the investors. So we'll try and understand as to what this presser by Mukul Rohatgi and Mahesh Jethmalani meant, and does it absolve Gautam Adani of all the charges which have been leveled and framed by the US indictment report. Joining me now is Supreme Court lawyer Sanjay Hegde this evening with us. So thank you so much for joining. And the first question, that this joint press conference by Mukul Rohatgi and Mahesh Jethmalani, and Mukul Rohatgi very categorically said that it's in his personal capacity that he is addressing the media. Now, what does that really mean?
Well, you'll have to ask them what it means. No lawyers, however eminent they are, can absolve anyone. That is a job for the courts to do. The US courts have issued summons. There are civil proceedings, there are criminal proceedings. Just because lawyers may say that no, there really isn't any case to answer, that is not something on which I would take an informed stock decision. The point is that the story is yet to play out. Mr. Adani may have shown the case to some lawyers. They may have a particular opinion about it, that there really is no case to answer. But nevertheless, you still have to answer. For instance, in the media space itself, there were all these charges against somebody as respected as Dr. Pranay Roy. And irrespective of what his lawyers said, it took nearly 7 or 8 years before the CBI and the ED closed their investigations. Coincidentally, in the meanwhile, the company got sold to Mr. Adani, but that's a different story. The thing is, in the US, prosecutions under the Foreign Corporations Act take their own time. There are indictments. Those indictments have been seen by a grand jury, and the charges have now been unsealed. What course happens in the US? Time will tell. It reminded me of a nice little Marwadi proverb, which says, "Jahan ki tirat, wahi ka panda." That if you go on a pilgrimage somewhere, take the local priest. Pandas this side of the Atlantic may not exactly get everything right as to what rites are to be performed across near the Potomac.
But Mr. Hegde, you're right that, it's the courts which have to decide whether, the charges which have been leveled against Gautam Adani and the Adani Green Energy Limited. But the point is the very idea why Mukul, Rohatgi and Mahesh, Jethmalani were sent today to hold the press conference, why they spoke. There are all sorts of speculations over it. Now, Mahua Moitra says, and then I looked at the stock prices also. There was a slight jump in the stock prices of Adani today. They were in greens. And this was immediately after the presser. And that is why Mahua Moitra wrote that this joint presser was held by the legal luminaries to hike up the stock prices and also dupe the investors. Now, what would you say to a charge which has been leveled by Mahua Moitra? Do you see any connection or link?
Well, Ms. Moitra is entitled to her opinion, and she does know a lot of lawyers. But as a lawyer, what it does appear to me is that this press conference has also come in at the same point of time that the Adani Group has officially informed the SEBI about the pendency of proceedings in the US. So the SEBI also has to take a call on whether there was price-sensitive information which had been concealed from it and all that. So it may well be that this is part of a grand legal plan, first to officially write to SEBI and also to announce all these things or this opinion in a press conference. I still hold that irrespective of how eminent the counsel, that has no determinative value in law. It may persuade people. An opinion of a counsel may say that, this is something which this group may get by in due course of time. But whether it would be actionable economic intelligence, I would certainly hold my horses.
But what Congress was saying, and there was a huge hangama in the House, they had moved in an adjournment notice. The Houses got adjourned. Both houses of Parliament got adjourned. But do you think that this presser has, in a way, or maybe the Adani Group is trying to dilute the bribery charges, and can it be done so?
Well, that is a matter of public perception. You see, molding perceptions is part of corporate communications. whenever a brand suffers, there is what is called a celebrity endorsement, which is one of the strategies. So if you have celebrity lawyers saying, no, 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 there's nothing in the case, and if you have a market which accepts it, well, that is good corporate communication strategy. Of course, there will be many who do not buy it at all. There will be many who will say, okay, let's hear it, hear everybody out, and let us take our own independent decisions.
What is Mr. Sanjay Hegde's opinion on the press conference, which was conducted by Mahesh Jethmalani and Mukul Rohatgi? You're also a lawyer, and how would you really see this development? Is it the part of the grand legal plan, as what you say, or is it like a brand endorsement that Adani brand is suffering from an image crisis, and that's why they've brought in and parachuted these big lawyers who are going to speak for them?
Well, it's a mixture of both things. And then there are people like me, for instance, we draw our own lines in the profession ethically. Now, you've often heard me tell you whenever you've reached out for an interview that, look, I'm engaged in this matter. I'm going to argue it on one side or the other, and therefore I will not be speaking to the media on it, except in those rare occasions when you just want to explain what happened, just the factual part of it. So you refrain from opinions. The American school of advocacy is not like that. You see lawyers, as they go into court, they get interviewed, they sort of lay out what they plan to do in court and all that. So now we, in this globalizing world, and particularly since the charges have emanated in America, maybe Indian lawyers thought that it was better to follow the American model than the British model of reticence. So they have come out. We are not yet sure that they are entirely retained by the Adanis for any of the defenses in this matter, or whether they are giving an informed opinion out of the goodness of their own hearts. Time will tell.
Mr. Hegde, I was speaking to someone this afternoon and they raised a pertinent question, and I thought of asking you this question because that gentleman said that, the SEBI should be investigating how the stock prices, tanked up today, and they got spiked up. And immediately after the presser, the markets were in greens. Adani stocks did better. So they must investigate this matter. Do you see any correlation today? And should the matter be, investigated by the SEBI, though they haven't done any investigation on Adani so far? But what about today's dealings, in the stocks?
I would be very surprised if SEBI investigated. And if SEBI investigated it, this would be the least of the sins that the Adani Group can be charged with. Yes, somebody who who wanted to take a calculated bet that this kind of statement from eminent lawyers would have impact on prices may have benefited. But I sincerely doubt that anybody who had knowledge that a press conference was going to be held went ahead of the press conference, which was at 9 o'clock, went to the market early in the morning and bought shares in anticipation. If the SEBI has to investigate the various compliances of the Adani Group, this is the least of the things that can be alleged against them. What really must be seen is, look, there were raids in the US. You knew that the investigation was pending. Why did you not inform the exchanges? Are you not under an obligation in terms of the listing agreement, in terms of the regulations, to disclose all such price sensitive information. See, you take a look at the pharma companies. The pharma companies often get into problems with the Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, abroad. And if the FDA conducts a raid on any of the facilities and finds something, that kind of information is immediately put out in the market. It was informed to the exchanges, and the exchanges put it out in the public sphere. None of that happened here till this indictment was unsealed. And as a matter of fact, the official communication seems to have gone only today.
But if you look at
So
the 54
SEBI
page,
certainly has lots to investigate, but it is sitting on its hands.
yeah. But if you look at the 54 page indictment report,
Ma'am.
Mr.
Please go ahead.
Yeah. So if you look at this 54 page indictment report, do you think that it really has some very serious charges against Adani? Like if you've heard Mr. Mahesh Jethmalani, he says that there is no evidence. Even Mukul Rohatgi says that there is no evidence, and the case is just that you induced people in America to subscribe to the bonds, that is the Adani Energy Green bonds, without informing the investors. And so basically there is no evidence. And he also said, Mahesh Jethmalani said that this is the doing of a democratic deep state. He went to the extent of saying that.
Well, I don't know whether a deep state exists anywhere. And if a deep state exists, it will have both Democrats and Republicans on it. So that irrespective of who gets selected, the deep state controls it. But be that as it may. You see, there is not only the indictment against the Adanis, there are two separate complaints. Lots of people read only the complaint against Adani. There is also the complaint against Cyril Sebastian Dominic Sabens, who was the CEO of Asia, the other company indicted. And
Yes.
if you read those details, you will see that the allegation is that not only did the Adanis pay Indian officials so that Indian states signed power supply agreements, but they went ahead and told Asia, look, we have paid. Now you please pay us 1/3 of the amount, which is your share of what we've paid. They wanted the share of the bribe money back because Asia could not pay it directly in cash. Then a certain mechanism was brought about where a certain contract was surrendered by Asia and then went to the Adanis in compensation. So it is, I think, a bit ill-informed, to say the very least, to read only the Adani indictment. Please read the accompanying indictment as well.
No, but both these lawyers in the morning, I mean, I'm talking
And
about
all this
Mukul
is in the
Rohatgi.
public sphere.
Right. No, but do you think that this joint press conference by Mahesh Jethmalani and Mukul Rohatgi, to say the least, was misleading? Because many people have been saying that, they're trying to mislead the country, on the US indictment case of Gautam Adani. Do you find this press conference misleading as a lawyer?
Well, look, a lawyer's opinion is only worth what it is paid for. So I will not give an opinion, especially as far as this channel is concerned. And if I give things freely, it will not be valued. You may rest assured that the opinion of the lawyers there may have been worth something, but I think that they are both great gentlemen. They would not deliberately mislead. They may be convinced of their client or one-time client's innocence, or they may have their own opinion based upon the reading of the documents. But how much weightage an investor or a shareholder of the Adani Group wants to place on their opinions is for that individual investor to decide. I would be among those who would advise caution at the very least.
As far as the US indictment report is concerned, and if you look at all the charges in entirety, do you think that is there an exit door for Adani, Gautam Adani?
Look, there always is an exit door. There have been so many cases which prosecutors think are slam dunk, which have failed. It often depends on what witnesses say on their day in court and things like that. But the US system is not like the Indian system, where trials go on indefinitely and then the passage of time itself causes a lot of changes. In the US system, you have a choice of whether to risk the prosecution taking the matter to trial, or whether you want to plead guilty in response to an offer of a lower sentence. So we do not know whether Mr. Adani's US lawyers who are handling in this case, what they will advise. It may well be that parties will be waiting for a change of guard in Washington before they figure out whether the fresh set of prosecutors are also bent on securing a conviction. Well, there are plenty who think that in an incoming Trump administration, for whatever reasons, prosecutors may be persuaded to go soft in this case, or even to drop the case. We do not know what will happen there. But right now, what has happened today appears to me, at least, that along with the official intimation to the exchanges, a defense is also being made simultaneously in the public sphere that really there is no case to answer. I would, however, take that with caution, with extreme caution.
Now, since you very categorically said that you would take this as an extreme caution, how do you think would the Department of Justice or the Securities Exchange Commission in America is going to react over things like these when they will see that you have two lawyers in India who are defending Gautam Adani despite a US indictment report? Or would they not pay much attention to what the lawyers are saying here?
I don't think that the DOJ or the SEC in the US would pay much attention to what is said in the domestic sphere. Their focus will be narrow to the extent of crimes which emanated under the Foreign Corporations Act within the United States. And there, a lot would also depend on their case against Kavens, who was the CEO of Asia.
But both Mukul Rohatgi and Mahesh Jethmalani saying that there is no evidence and there is an intention to pay the bribe, but the bribe has not been paid. Now, how would you? What would you say to this? Both of them said this.
I don't. I think that both of them only saw the first indictment, the 54-page one. Please read the second indictment as well. Because if you did not pay it, then what were you asking for? A refund of 1/3 of it. So I would. That is why I said, please take all these things with extreme caution.
One or two questions more before I wind up the interview. That what will it do to brand Adani now? This US indictment report and the way he's being questioned in several countries, Switzerland, Bangladesh, Kenya, so many countries, now Israel as well. Now, what happens to brand Adani now? Will he have any borrowing capacity left? Are the countries going to be cautious in dealing with him, as the Kenyan president William Ruto inside the parliament said that we'll cancel all the deals which he has? So what is the impact on brand Adani worldwide?
Well, if I was his brand manager, I would be extremely, extremely worried. I would also be think that Adani Corporation's capacity to expand overseas has been severely compromised. But more than brand Adani, I am worried about brand India. This kind of conflating Adani is India and what is good for Adani is good for India is not doing India's brand any good. If all Indian companies which seek to raise money abroad or which seek to do business abroad are tarred with the same Adani brand, then it may very well be that in addition to Adani, other Indian corporations will also see an increase in their cost of borrowings. That is not good for the country. And unless the country says, look, we are going to set things straight, it will be very difficult for brand India to survive. Let me give you an example from the days of the financial crisis in 2008. At that point of time, the Korean government also acted through big corporations called the chaebols. So one of their biggest chaebol was Daewoo. And there were so many allegations against it that the Korean government itself, the South Korean government, decided to let Daewoo go under, whereas Hyundai and Samsung survived. So I think that it would be bad business strategy to let the Adani brand be linked with India. I hope that people are taking note of this possibility as well.
And do you think that this is my last question? Do you think
that is your best incentive?
Right.
To have yes.
No, I was saying that.
Go ahead.
Do you think that the Congress's noise or the opposition's noise on this US indictment report and the way the adjournment notices are being brought about in the Indian Parliament, are they all misconceived? Because that's what Mahesh Jethmalani said, that this Congress's noise on US indictment report is ill-conceived.
Well, you must remember that Mr. Jethmalani is also a BJP member of parliament. What he thinks of the Congress's political strategy may well be colored by his political affiliations. So whether they're conceived or well or not is another question. Maybe they could have been presented better. Another set of possibly explainer videos, which could explain exactly what has happened in capsule-sized content, could probably go a long way.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hegde, for joining on HW News. Thank you very much, sir.
50 words. Download now for a smarter, faster news experience.